allow me to introduce our moderator, Catherine Kat Casey from Reveal Brainspace, Scott Milner from Morgan Lewis, Chris Austin from Bowman and Brook, Kiran Malavarapu, I'm sorry if I mispronounced that, from Liberty Mutual, and Justin Hectus from Kiesel, Young, and Logan. So on that note, Kat, the floor is yours.
All right. Well, thank you guys for braving lovely Las Vegas to spend some time learning about all things AI with us. We're pretty excited. So, contain your excitement. I know it's early in the day. So overall, we want to talk a little bit about not just what is AI, but how do we get people to start using it, to start bringing it into their corporate programs? What flavors of AI are there? And how the heck do you start getting people over that fear of the unknown and get them to FOMO, the fear of missing out on all the great things that AI can do? Oops. Turn off. Sorry about that. So that's kind of our agenda in a nutshell. We're going to start off by asking, what do we mean by AI? Because in the legal space, every person you talk to probably has a slightly different idea of what it actually means. Go into the actual flavors right now of how people are using technology to either automate or accelerate time to evidence. Move into, okay, how does the deployment in a corporation differ from a law firm? Go into some practical tips and tricks to drive adoption, to get those Luddites or technophobes to be more like technophiles, to be more open to embracing technology. And then we'll go into, is this all or nothing? Do we do it ourselves? Is it something you buy, build, or partner with? And then look at what the future holds. So without further ado, I want to start off with, what the heck is legal AI? What does it mean to you guys on the panel? You want to start to my left, Scotty? What is it to you?
Well, hopefully you guys hear me. But AI to me is, when people say artificial intelligence, I think it scares people away. So from my perspective and how I define the term is really augmented intelligence. So it really is about how do we learn more information, or how do we get to the goal or solve our problem using technology to support that. So it's not really replacing anybody in our ecosystem. It's only enhancing our ability to get to information faster. That's how I look at it. And that's how it's helped me.
The way I break it down is a lot less Terminator, robots instead of humans, and a lot more Iron Man. The suit doesn't do anything without Tony Stark operating it. The technology today, augmented intelligence, is about you supercharged. And I think that's a really great way to look at it. How about for you?
Yeah, I would agree that it's not a replacement of anybody or any technology. There's a philosopher by the name of Marshall McLuhan, and I use him quite a bit. He looks at all of technology as an extension of. So binoculars are an extension of your eyesight. Automobiles are an extension of your feet. And AI is just an extension of your brain, if you will, to help with doing complicated tasks more efficiently.
I love that. Before we kind of dive in, I'd love to ask the audience, how many of you are using AI, not just legal, but AI in general today? How many of you are, all right, a few of you? What if I was to put this slide on, cell phones, Facebook, Amazon Q, would more of you raise your hand and say that you're using AI today? Maybe?
I would venture to say we have 100%.
Well, I think that kind of it begs the question of, why has adoption been so slow in legal departments? And I think, we dig into that a little bit further, but let's just start with the baseline of it's not this unknown, it's something you're using every day. For Kiran, how are you seeing, how would you describe AI in your context, in your sphere? Because you're the one person here who's part of a major corporate department.
Yeah, thank you, Kat. I think I go back to, Roy Amara or even Bill Gates. I think both of them mentioned once that we overestimate the impact of technology in the short run, and then we underestimate the effect of technology in the long run. So I think I would agree with you. It's augmented intelligence. AI's capability today are not that powerful, but that's again today. So worrying about the doom and gloom situation is sort of unnecessary. We just have to focus on how to make the right choices to benefit us today. And I want to split it into two ways. I look at AI, one as a tool and one as an assistant. Tool, think of it as a screwdriver in your house. You still need to know how to use it, where you would use it. It cannot do everything. and think of the other role, which is more of a assistant. So a general contractor subcontracting parts and pieces. So it can do a part of the task and you can depend upon it pretty good, but you still have to take care of it. So I think that is where our AI technology is today, either as a tool or either as an assistant.
That makes a lot of sense. What about for you, Justin? I mean, do you see it as a tool or an alternate workflow or just a way to supercharge your process?
You often we're using AI tools for scale. But if you think about it and break it down into the subcomponents, there's a lot of things that we're using inside the org that we've been using for years: speech to text, text to speech, expert systems, RPA, natural language processing, even things like machine learning. Those of us who have litigation practices, we've been using this type of technology for a really long time. And as we start to get into more exciting areas, deep learning and predictive analytics, those are things that we'll see, come online in a, day-to-day fashion in the near term. But I agree. I think it's a tool. And the things that we're focused on most right now are training the muscles to use those tools. So focusing on process and the people around those tools. But I do agree that a lot of these things we're already soaking in them.
Brilliant. And I think that's a really good segue to kind of the next question. What are these tools? What are these applications and options that we have today in the legal space? How has AI gotten baked in? I know for each of us, we've got someone who focuses more on contract analytics versus e-discovery versus data visualization. So I'd love to kind of get a consensus from the group on, what flavors of AI are you seeing and how has it impacted your practice and how has it changed even in the past couple of years? I don't know if you guys want to chime in first.
Yeah, I'll start. At my law firm, Bowman and Brook, we utilize a few different tools of AI, mostly around our knowledge management or KM space. Justin mentioned some natural language processing, and that's where we really see a lot of value when we're doing research, legal research, finding cases, finding our own documents, finding our own work product. I love the slide that's on the screen now because it shows just how many different flavors of AI are out there. And when I look at the names on that list, they're all leaders in that space in their own niche area. So there's plenty of different software companies as well as products out there, and you just have to find the right area for your particular law firm or practice.
No, I love that. And I know, Scott, you've got kind of a different application, but you're doing some creative stuff around layering multiple different types of AI to get to insights faster.
To me, I'm always looking at what problem am I trying to solve. And some of them are client-facing, some of them are internal. How do I be more efficient, or how do I deliver different legal value to my end clients? And so we always look at what technology is out there, and we never necessarily pick just a technology. We figure out what problem we're going to solve and then layer the technology on top of it to work. So obviously, I'm born and bred out of e-discovery, so we've been using predictive coding technology assisted review for years, but we've also found other use cases for this technology to support investigations, getting to information faster, looking at the sentiment analysis or anomaly detection. These are huge. You can't see that when you're looking at communications very linearly. So the technology actually helps tell the story. I also love using it to help with things, data breaches. I don't know, every day I read in the paper another breach. And the turnaround time to provide notice to people that are impacted is pretty quickly. You can't review data fast enough in a linear fashion or one doc by the second. So we're leveraging a lot of AI and technology to help pre-identify what personally identifiable information is impacted in the infiltrated data sets, and then make sure we're actually giving our colleagues that are responding to the breach the information they need about who they have to provide notice to and what's their appropriate notice depending on where they're located.
Yeah, I love that. I think that e-discovery was kind of one of the first entry points of AI, but it's not the only one. We've got a great partner that we work with, a big firm, where they're using our model sharing in order to identify cartel behavior. There's a lot of areas, especially I think into the corporate side, where you can look at compliance, you can look at anomaly detection, both in data sets, in behavior, or even in contract. And that might be a good segue, Kieran, to you. As the person who is running, a program in-house, how are you using AI, and kind of where have you found it to be impactful?
So I think, Kat, I want to start with first doubling down on e-discovery. Many of us in the legal industry, sometimes when we think about AI, we are afraid of AI, but we have to understand that we have been doing e-discovery for so long, and AI has been used in e-discovery for quite some time. So it's almost like we are a wonderful industry to actually promote AI a lot more compared to many other organizations. And the reason for that mainly is the availability of lots of documents. I think the industry has been able to store every single decision by all these courts over years and years. You can find pattern and pattern recognition. So think about all the billing that we do with outside counsel or internally from a time perspective. So we are able to do that. I think Scott mentioned legal research. So that's a very big area with lots of regulations and policies changing and trying to understand who gets impacted where. So I think that's a great idea. And I think this slide actually provides a lot more. For example, we are an insurance organization, and we are regulated across multiple states. So there are lots of documents that we have to fill up, we have to file, we have to provide to our clients or our policy holders. So document automation is one big area we are looking into.
I think if we boil down AI to the application of law, it's kind of two things. One is, automating repetitive tasks so that it can free you up to practice higher function legal tasks. And the other is getting to insights more quickly so then you can do fact-driven case decisions or posture. Do you see that as well, Justin?
Yeah, I do. I think the thing that we're most excited about, we've moved from e-discovery focused into a lot of pre-execution and post-execution applications of AI and contracts. And one of the things I'm most excited about is turning those contracts into data points, and that can be metadata type, profile type information, but it can also be provisions. And then you can actually boil provisions down into the principle of the provision. So, really looking at things from a data focused manner, what can we do to whom and when, under what circumstances, and then taking all of those components, basically datafying your contracts, presenting them then to the people who, the people who are most connected with the contracts are the people who negotiated them. Those are rarely the people who are actually operationalizing the contracts. So taking those data points and then grouping them in a logical fashion and presenting them to the business owners who actually need to know those components at the time that they're undertaking some business activity that is either permissioned or prohibited by the contracts. That's a pretty exciting evolution, and it's something that we're doing today. So it's a good moment.
Awesome. Well, let's interrupt a little bit now and do a quick poll. I would love to ask the audience, and we can do a show of hands, but we're also setting it up digitally. What types of AI are you guys using if you're using it in your legal practice? We can do a show of hands in here. If you're doing contract analytics, kind of what was being talked about, brilliant. E-discovery, I'll put 2 hands away up for that one. What about case outcome prediction, or even like identifying trends in case law? Oh, that's awesome. I was expecting to have no hands. What tools are you using? Oh, sorry to put you on the spot. Tell me later. I'll pick your brain later. I'm just curious.
I thought we weren't doing the Socratic method.
Sorry. I'm feeling very law school right now. I'm sorry. I don't know if we were able to get the poll for the other folks, but this is just kind of, I think, an interesting point. How is AI impacting law? Well, it's in all these different flavors we've been talking about, and they kind of layer on each other. And it's no one specific use case. It's across the board. And so I think it's really important that folks know there's not one right way to do it, one single path. There's a lot of different ways folks can embrace this technology. So one of the themes of this discussion is bringing AI into a corporate department. And so I think to start off, let's do some level setting on maybe how does a corporate department look at AI differently or interact with AI differently than perhaps a law firm. We've got folks from kind of both sides of the spectrum. I'd love to start with you, Kieran. How do you look at AI that you think maybe is different from how your outside counsel looks at it?
When we look at a particular AI service or an AI product, again, going back to some of the other panelists, we sort of look at the need the business need that we are trying to solve. So AI is a tool. We just don't try to bring in, and fit it in, but it's more about the business problem we are trying to solve, and does it really help or push the business forward? The second consideration is, does it add value compared to a non-AI process, whether it be process or whether it just be a software, or just better processes within the organization sometimes help with the solution. The third is, we also look at it from a build versus buy perspective. When we are inside a corporate law firm, the needs of our organization might be unique compared to the larger legal industry. So then we might think of a build solution versus a buy solution, where somebody has already figured out the problem, has figured out a wonderful UX, as well as has been able to deliver value to other customers. So then we look at from a build versus buy perspective. And finally, it's also the amount of time, how quickly we need to jump in, we need to solve the business problem, and are we expecting any changes in the market which will sort of accelerate its implementation. So those are sort of the 3 or 4 parameters we look at before we pick up an AI tool.
I love that. And so for Scott and for Chris, how do you look at AI in a way that maybe is similar to or differs to what Kieran does?
Go for it, Scott. I'll go right on.
Okay. I teed this up a little bit early on, in the sense I say, when I'm thinking about adopting technology or AI, I look at it as, how can I solve a client problem more efficiently? And also, how do I make my own internal team more efficient? So it's a little bit of a two-way attack for me, because I know that my clients really need us to be as efficient and get to the answers fast. And I want to free up my lawyers' time to practice law and do the high-level legal analysis that their clients are paying for. So from my perspective, I think I echo from the in-house side is, I need to be more efficient. I need to show value. I need to deliver excellent legal services, and I need to do it in an efficient way. And that's why deploying AI is critical for our success. I don't know many of my clients that have more budget than less. So I don't know in our audience here, how many are in-house by show of hands? You get a small handful. How many are in law firms? About 70%. And then service providers? So you can see, for my in-house colleagues or friends in the audience, I'm pretty sure you don't get a lot of spend for more people. So you need to partner with efficient folks on the outside that are going to deliver the services using technology.
Well, AI, it's a force multiplier for you, so you can kind of be that David versus a Goliath without having to break the bank. So, sorry about that, Chris.
No, just to piggyback on that, I think AI just conceptually for an outside counsel is almost the exact opposite of how other types of organizations use AI. For example, if we're a product liability firm. Many of you use our products that we defend every day. But what's interesting is when our clients incorporate technology, AI technology into their products, they're trying to drive cost and push revenue. For outside counsel, we're doing the exact opposite, right? We're bringing in technology to drive down costs for the client. So it's a really interesting dynamic there, that the purpose or the goals are inversely related to how for outside as it might be for another type of organization.
That's an interesting segue to kind of the next question, because I think knowing the different value structures that in-house versus law firm place on AI, potentially the risk a firm might see, and hey, it's going to cut my billable hours, or in-house is going to say, hey, it's going to make me so much more efficient. How do you get past those unique hurdles based on where you sit, and how are you driving that adoption and kind of eliminating that fear of the unknown? Since I didn't get Justin last time, maybe I'll start with him. If you want to chime in, how you're convincing your clients to embrace AI. How are you doing that?
Sure, you bet. So just real quick to close out that last comment, the one thing that I would say that is materially different between the way that law firms use AI or think about AI and the way that corporates, we're embedded with a dozen or so corporates who are using AI-focused legal solutions. And the biggest difference is that on the law firm front, we're looking for impact now. We're looking for value now. we're in a service delivery business. We're looking for things like efficiency or effectiveness, but we're looking for things that are proven right now. In the corporate legal department focused area, we're able to make investments that will eventually deliver value. And so there's a lot more experimentation going on, which is interesting. And I think that's, from my view, that's one of the key differences. On this component here, like how do we get people to buy in? You have to have ROI. You have to have a measurement stick to measure progress, and we have to be really clear with people about what our objectives are and what we think we're going to get out of it. About the fact that we may be experimenting and we may not get the results we hope when that's the case. And then again, really sort of drive towards, impact analysis. We did a project with Connie Brenton and the NetApp team where we were able to reduce legal escalations by a significant percentage. We were able to reduce cycle time by, 80%. Having those measurable outcomes, that's the real litmus test. So it could be different from project to project, but I think those are key.
Measurable ROI is a consistent thing to get adoption, corporate or law firm. Would you guys agree?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, without it, you can't measure success without it. So if you don't, then you're just treading water and not making any significant progress. And I agree with Justin. Law firms are about now. What's happening now? We're not worried about what things are going to look like 5 years from now. By that time, the lawsuit's gone and we're on to new things. So, good point.
Well, that makes sense. How about for you? I tell you about your
Yeah, no, I 100% think it is, but I like to tackle it from a different area when I'm talking to my in-house counterparts. So yes, there's a lot of things we try to do for legal risk, and it impacts how we deliver legal services. But there's actually business intelligence that can be taken from data. Knowledge is power, and I like to tell a story about we were helping a client analyze a bunch of real estate leases. And they were just looking for one thing about whether they can terminate leases. And you're like, all right, let's pull these provisions out. While we're doing that, our technology also pulled out a lot of the other business terms. Mm-hmm. Do you know what we found out? We found out in leases in Iowa, they were paying the same square foot that they were in New York City. We're like, why do we care about that? Well, we found out, all right, well, who's negotiating these leases? All right, who are they negotiating with? We found out there was some not so good behavior where people negotiating with relatives and paying a premium on space they didn't need to pay for. That's business intelligence. You can't
negotiate.
Yeah, exactly. So, it's no longer free meals, but I think this is something you can also help with your in-house counterparts. It is, there's business value of this information as well.
Absolutely. Now, how many people in here have actually come up against any of the myths that are on the screen? Have you tried to get AI? So we're on the right course. I think the barriers to adoption can be addressed if you kind of understand who you're talking to. And I know this is your slide, so you're going to talk to this one, Scotty. But I think understanding how the lawyer brain works and how different key stakeholders, in-house versus firm, how they all evaluate this is a kind of a component of that.
Yeah. So I just love, this is a study where they're talking about basically what the public brain is versus the rainmaker at a law firm's brain looks like. And these are just 6 categories that they were measuring with the brain of lawyers that drive a lot of revenue. And you can see like skepticism. So if you say the baseline is 50%, lawyers are 90% skeptical about bringing in new technology. So convincing them to change is sometimes hard. They're autonomous. They don't want to rely on somebody else. And sometimes AI, you actually have to rely on your allied professionals and partners to help you run and leverage the technology. And again, urgency, we want it now. Everything's time sensitive. Everything, I want it now, I want it now. And sometimes you need to actually think through the problem before you can solve it. So I just love this studies. I think it's just pretty funny to show like, how do you drive adoption? You got to get in the mindset of the people you're trying to change their opinion on. And this was just a fun read for me. And if anybody has time, feel free to reach out to me. I'm happy to send the link to the article.
I want to also just say one thing on that about the lawyers and skepticism. Because you're talking about new technology and you're presenting it to people who are highly successful at their career for 20 or 30 years, and to say we're going to pull this out of your cold dead hand and replace it with this thing that you read in a white paper sometime but might not know how it works. That would scare anybody, even the Elon Musks of the world. It might scare to do so. That's a good skepticism. I like that, Scott.
Well, and Kieran, let me ask you, because you're balancing probably even the inverse of a law firm, where you're balancing the business-minded folks, and you're the legal skeptic, but you've got your internal in-house team, but also all the business leaders that you interact with every day. How do you kind of balance their desire for better, faster, quicker AI all the time with mitigating risk and with kind of getting the buy-in that you need on your team? Because I'd imagine that's a delicate balancing act.
No, absolutely. I think these categories, I don't know much about the numbers, but I think these categories are pretty relevant, whether it be a law firm or an in-house. I think part of this is also the general legal education, if I may. And I'm not an attorney, but the general legal education is based on precedent. So whatever happened yesterday may happen again, right? So to think of the art of the possible of what may happen in the future might be a little bit tough. So one of the balances that we do within a corporate department is really think about it as providing exposure and education. So within Liberty Mutual, we create a thing called Vendor Showcase, where we invite vendors from the entire legal industry, whether it be contract management, whether it be AI, or whether it be pro bono or negotiation. But we invite them and we ask them to pitch their product, their services for 30 minutes. And not to buy them, not to sell them, but just so that all of us get exposures. And so far, over the last 5 years, we have invited more than 30, 35 companies, and we actually do business with them today. 5 or 10 of them, we do business with them today. So I think it's more really about trying to, educate our attorneys. The second one is about exposure. Go back to what Justin said. I think the corporate law departments, at least large ones like us, we are trying new things because we don't know what will stick. We don't know. We have too many things going on at the same time. So we are piloting new things. So by going to our in-house business clients as well as our own attorneys and not really prying their work away from them, because it doesn't happen. AI cannot take away everything that you do, but providing them tools that can plug in at various parts of their workflow. They're able to use them, they're able to actually provide us feedback, and then they're getting more comfortable. So now what we have seen is we have realized a healthy balance between, good ideas that we tried and failed, and some more ideas that we have not yet even touched, right? So there's a lot more backlog in that space. So it's sort of a interesting balance that we have to play. And as you said, money is tight, the ideas are a lot. So just making sure that we keep pushing the envelope every day.
The showcase of having, your tech partners or potential partners kind of elevate and educate your team. Are any of you other guys doing anything to kind of build that familiarity of your team with the new tools, or have you had any kind of just, ways that you're finding you're able to drive adoption, get those early adopters that are kind of shouting from the rooftops how much AI is helping them? Justin, if you want to chime in.
Sure, you bet. This is an area where there is, 48% of the people fall into the blind optimism camp, 48% of the people fall into the blind skepticism camp. And so there's a few of us in the middle who, are really trying to broaden that middle and say, here's something we're going to experiment with. It may fail. If it looks promising, we're going to chase into it. If it doesn't look promising, we're going to abandon it and go after something else. So, I think kind of getting that, I'm trying really hard not to use coalition of the willing, but that concept, people who are on board with the idea and who are pushing the envelope and who get the fact that this is something that we're going to deposit into the account over time, and we're going to get dividends later. Sometimes we'll get immediate benefit. But education, these are muscles we haven't tested, and getting people comfortable with the concepts, I think, is really important, and demystifying the concepts is really important.
A lot of resources. I mean, there's your partners, but there's also events like this. There's a lot of blogs. There's a lot of articles. So there's a wealth of ways people can start, meeting that ethical duty of technical competence, which doesn't mean you need to learn to code, no matter how many people tell me that you do. It just means you need to be able to issue spot and understand when tech is relevant and when to call in an ally, whether it's an internal ally or a third party.
I'll take a slightly different approach, Justin. I'll take the 48% that are all blindly in. I want them as champions. And you know what? I won't go to, how about this? I'll still try with the 48% that are skeptical. But the bottom 2%, I stop wasting time at that one point because it's just not going to happen. And I feel like if I can get enough champions to buy in, just helping solve their problems faster or more efficient, I'm happy to take that. And I think that's the approach that we've taken. We found a couple of people that had, they were either trying to expand their practice, they were trying to drive more efficiencies in their practice. They had a client that had a unique problem that they just couldn't figure out with resources how to solve within the budget. And we just found solutions. And then you get them like, all right, now this is great. And they talk to their colleagues. So I'm all about taking any win I can get. And just get those champions. And then it's usually it's use cases, it's marketing materials, it's presenting within the sub practice. That's what I do at the firm. I'll go around, present to the sub practice group meetings, explaining like, these are the problems that we had. And I ask them, what's your biggest challenge now with your practice? And we try to figure out what that is. So whatever we're building actually meets a need instead of just building something and hoping somebody will buy it, so to speak.
Well, I find the more people that you have out there that are a megaphone on behalf of tech adoption for you, the better, because as the internal technology person, obviously I'm a raving in favor of AI, but sometimes there's more credibility if it's Bob in the corner office 5 doors over that is saying, hey, I use this data visualization and I was able to go across 5 different data types and figure stuff out before the meet and confer, which was really impactful, or it helped me build out my, my posture talking with a regulator. And so, the adoption, it starts with those raving fans, but the more people you have out there saying, hey, this stuff's good, here's how it helped me, even outside the context of like a formal presentation, that's, I think, when you start getting to that tipping point. I don't know if you guys
and I think I also love the new lawyers that come in because they're usually more, they're tech advanced or at least open to tech. I still think we could do a better job in law schools promoting technology to solve this instead of just the legal theory component of it. And but I do like trying to get to the new lawyers faster to try to show them how we can make their job easier so they can start to get higher level legal analysis and projects.
Yeah, I agree with everything that's been said. I like that middle ground, right? Like all of us on the panel, many in the audience are the raving lunatics at the firm or in-house raving about technology, right? We're open to it.
I prefer raving fan.
So to go into a conference room talking about new technology, that's almost what people expect you to do. But finding that group in there that maybe not the skeptics, the hardcore 2%, but finding those and having them be the sounding board saying, oh, I tried this and this was fantastic. Call so-and-so up and they can help you out there. Though that's actually more gratifying than the technology is seeing it actually help people in their practice.
That is the birth of the FOMO that drives adoption right there. Like getting people talking about it and having those war stories and having concrete numbers to say, hey, surfaced evidence 50% faster, spent $100,000 less, found anomalies that saved, potentially put someone in jail, but also saved a ton of money, all of that.
I do my job.
I'm not going to get on your bad side. So one thing that sometimes gets thrown up as a reason to not jump into AI is people kind of think it's all or nothing. And let's dig into that a little bit. Like, do you guys feel like you've got to kind of only go to the nth degree and be fully AI optimized, or do you kind of take a kind of spectrum approach where different matters are going to have a different use case, different practice groups are going to be more or less tech focused? What do you guys see?
Well, I think it's not an all or nothing thing. It's a mix, and it goes into the best tool for the job, right? There's tools that don't need AI. It's great to have it. It's wonderful to have AI, and there's plenty of people doing AI. but the key to their platform is not the AI piece of it. So I don't think it's all or nothing. I think it definitely it's the right tool for the toolbox that the task that you're shooting for.
And how about for you, Kieran? Are you seeing the same thing? So I'd imagine, it's a more thoughtful approach to bring in different flavors of AI in an insurance industry organization, just because there's so much more consideration around risk. Kind of how are you balancing that, and what's your approach?
I think we are almost forced to balance this out. And what I mean by that is AI is a new technology. However, go back to any other technology that has ever taken place, whether it be the space race, whether it be computers, whether it be cars, right? I mean, I'm just comparing it with any other technology that is so common today. In one day, we did not, send a man to the moon, right? It just did not happen overnight. So therefore, it cannot be all or nothing. In my world, I treat it as a train. You got multiple trains, and each train goes from station A to station B. And then the next train goes from B to C. In the meantime, there is some other practice area that is trying to start a new train from A to B. So I think all of these journeys, it's going to be a maturity journey. And as we improve the artificial intelligence, whether it be process changes, automation, pattern recognition, natural language processing, and then it's performing the full role of an assistant, it all has to go in sequence. So somebody has to train the system, somebody has to test the system. So that's why I don't believe in this all or nothing phase. Also, I think, if I may, Kat, I want to go back to this. Are all lawyers skeptics? Or if you are a skeptic, will you always be a skeptic? I don't think so. I think I've noticed that people change their views based on the idea. What I'm trying to say is we cannot label a person as, either a technophobe or a technophile. It almost depends upon the idea. And even as legal operations managers, we go through the same phase. So we have to be open to new ideas, try a bunch of things, and then sort of take it through the maturity curve to reach the ultimate goal to solve the business problem.
I mean, I think that makes a lot of sense. And, I think people like to joke on lawyers and be like, oh, they're Luddites or technophobes. But the reality is legal minds are trained to question and to ensure that there's sufficient information, that they're not taking an unreasonable risk. So basically, by being a little aloof or uncertain, lawyers are lawyering. So it's, and with more information and context, those FOMO instances or really robust BI, suddenly the risk calculus shifts. And instead of it being risky to adopt AI, it's riskier to try to do brute force manual because of the time, the money, and the errors that can occur. How about for you, Justin or Scott? Like, you guys both have pretty, advanced practices. You're more to the cutting edge on bringing on AI. How do you look at this?
Scott, you go first.
You first.
Okay, great. I look at it as links in a chain. I mean, similar to Kieran's train analogy. We should focus on the areas that can be automated, either through technology that we can buy, or middleware, or things that we can build. This is the nascent area still, and tools have a varying degree of maturity. But even the most mature tools may have a gap. Often that gap is in the way that information is presented to the internal business customer, or to our customer, if this is a law firm to client facing concept. So we need to be prepared to enhance tools that are available on the market, either with data that enriches the data set, or some sort of abstraction layer or connective tissue that brings the value home.
That's a great point, and it might be something Scotty can talk about. Like, AI might tell you, use me for this, but a lot of times there are outside the box ways you can employ AI-based technology, maybe in a use case, maybe for post-breach or for a compliance issue, or there might be ways to kind of expand on the tech that is available to kind of build something more robust. I know you do some of that. I'm sure some of the other folks in the call do too.
It is a tough question to answer, only because I still have to figure out what I'm trying to solve. Like, what's my issue that I'm trying to address? for me, when we're talking about driving adoption within the firm, I think you alluded to this, that, law firms were by nature built by the billable hour. And I think there could be skepticism about, are we going to pull, basically, are we taking money out of our pocket? And I actually say no. My practice has been probably 80% alternative fee arrangements for the last 10 years. And we're actually probably more margin in some instances than I would at a billable hour approach, because I'm able to drive efficiency. But the client is still paying less. They're paying less, which is a win-win then. And because we're able to put that there. And I think if I show people that, making 30% on $100 versus making only 10% on $200, I'm actually better off with the $100 but making more higher percentage. I may not have done the math right because I'm a lawyer, but I think everybody got the picture. I see some nodding heads at least.
You're a whole lot better off than making $0 because the client went with someone who used technology.
That's another thing. And I think this year we've seen a huge uptick in our transactional lawyers looking to us to solve some problems. Before it was always like, they're always going to want the law firm. They're going to want the associates doing the due diligence. They're going to want the associates analyzing the contracts. And I said, no, I think they want the associates helping make a decision once all the information is mined out of the contracts, or when they actually pull the diligence. Yes, that's what they want to pay the higher value cost for. But no one wants to sit there and be like, pull out the assignability clause from these 2,000 contracts before we do this. No one wants to pay that anymore. So for me, driving adoption was trying to explain that this isn't, I try to always talk about the Kodak experience, right? Where somebody came to Kodak and they had somebody that was developing a pixel, the digital camera. No, it's going to steal from our print business. We want print photos. And, we see what happens. And I think I try to take that approach with our lawyers, that this is not going to end the law firm. In fact, I try to push them, like, what will disrupt big law? Because we should be ahead of that, and we should be thinking about that. And that actually helps drive adoption. It's like, all right, we should be changing to this approach.
I think the Kierans of the world and other savvy in-house are what are changing the practice for outside counsel, because as there's more technical sophistication of folks in your role, Kieran, there's more expectation of the law firms to deliver and to demonstrate they're being innovative or creating efficiency. Have you kind of seen that in your own practice, Kieran? And do you sort of find the way that you are looking at and evaluating outside counsel to kind of shift as your practice shifts?
We are. I think we are also, one of the things we are trying to do is to provide the same exposure and same experience to some of our outside law firms. And I think to jump on some of Scott's comments, if I may, I think AI will eventually find its way into the legal industry across all domains. It's going to touch every single domain. And this is not because how I feel about it, but this is based on data. I think you want to look at the demand and the supply side. From a demand perspective, there is increased demand of legal services, right? Transactional services last year went up. You heard that. Many areas of laws are changing, right? I mean, cybersecurity, privacy, drone, shared economy, law, labor law, environmental health. So the amount of laws and regulatory and policy, all of that is increasing, and technology is almost forcing it to increase. The other side of this demand and supply is the supply. So the demand for the attorneys is going up, but the supply is still not able to catch up. And you have somebody like, the ABA, the average annual growth of attorneys practicing is around 1.5%, right, for the last 10 years. The law school enrollment has fallen compared to 10, 15 years ago. It has improved, but it's the same level as 1980s right now. So I think as you see the demand curve going up and supply curve going down, we are trying to prepare some of our law firm partners. And I'm very glad to hear from Scott and others that some of the law firms are actually doing it themselves, where they can provide that same high quality, high consistency legal services, but still at an efficient price. And that will allow a company like Liberty Mutual to partner with them for the long run, not just on a one transaction, but thinking about it from a book of business perspective.
That might be a good segue into kind of our next question, which is, in looking at AI, there's a lot of paths on how you can bring it in-house. You alluded to partnering with the right outside counsel. I'm sure partnering with the right technology companies. Some folks build or customize stuff. I know you've done some of that, Scotty, and some just say, hey, off the shelf, it does a pretty good job. Let's get the ball started. So, when looking at the equation, and maybe we can start with Justin or with Chris, how do you make that decision on how you're going to go and try to get whatever tech or tool is going to help your practice, bring it in? Like, how do you evaluate that?
Well, I think you have three different paths here, and you could mix and match a little bit depending on the circumstances. I can only speak from my point of view, which is, outside counsel. We're not a software company, for starters. We're not going to go out, and we have a brilliant e-discovery group. We have brilliant IT professionals, but we're not going to go get coders and start doing data analytics. So our job is to service the client. And that's just from Bowman and Brooks' perspective. The other side of it, though, is just to buy it off the shelf, right? Like, you go out on the expo floor, everybody has a tool out there that you can buy, and if your checkbook's big enough, you can go ahead and buy it.
Mine's the best, clearly.
Yeah. I like to be right in the middle and partnering. We have great partners that we work with. They understand our business. They have the resources, the pockets, and we help them. Hey, this is something that Bowman and Brook uses. This is something that we think your software can do. And they start to understand our business. We start to understand their perspective as well, building products. So everybody to their own, but I would always vote to partner with rather than build or just to blindly buy off the shelf.
And Justin, is that kind of a similar approach that you have, or do you have a different way of kind of looking at this calculus?
Well, I think Chris is spot on. Partnering with somebody as an early adopter is a great way to be forward, to be seen as forward thinking, to take advantage of the foundation that they've built, and to help to influence the product roadmap. So I think that's huge. We do happen to have 30 developers, so we focus on building quite a bit. But usually, what we do is we look at what's available in the market. We build on top of that. We build to extend or to get ahead of their roadmap. And we do so pretty selectively based on what the client needs are, and what's the delta between what does the client need most and how soon is the software vendor able to get that.
And Kieran, I know that you mentioned partnering, maybe flesh out the ways that you partner a little bit about Liberty Mutual, because I would imagine, buying cycles, budgetary constraints, like you're going to have to use that extension of partnership to get access if it's mid fiscal year or something, or even to just build out that pilot. So sort of what's your approach in this equation?
Yeah, I think, for us, it's all three. We buy, we partner, as well as we build. So we are, we use all three of them, and exactly for the reasons that you are looking here. One example I want to throw out is, I was in a conference quite some time back, and we looked at a simple demo where a complaint can be taken into the software, and the software can analyze the complaint, retrieve metadata, and it builds out an entire draft answer so that the attorney can review. So that's something that was already developed by this company called Legalmation, and they already had enough market data. They already were looking into various states and so on. So it made sense for us to sort of buy as well as partner with them to make it or customize it for our particular purpose. Similarly, we also completely just build it in-house. So we have a huge litigation management practice, and we deal with a lot of internal artificial intelligence related with bills, invoices, looking at patterns and trends of outside counsel billing and our own legal trial cases, and some of the outcomes and so on. So in that particular case, all the data was in-house, all the expertise was in-house, and there is no product out there that you can just go buy. So those are sort of the two extreme examples of buying and building. I think there is always going to be an element of partnership, whether it be with outside law firms or with outside technology firms, because AI has to be customized for your organization's purpose in many, many cases. If it is a simple contract management, just pulling out data, then you don't need to partner. But in many cases, you have to customize it for your organization's needs. So I think partner just happens organically when you're making the AI decision.
Makes a lot of sense. And Scott, you're probably a company that's partnered with a lot as a firm because you are doing so many different cutting edge things with AI. So kind of what's your take on this, and how are you plugging in with more kind of tech savvy and innovative companies like Liberty Mutual?
Yeah, no, I do it all. I mean, we buy, build, and partner. We have to. What I've enjoyed about the build part for me is being able to hire our allied professionals, the folks that are data scientists. Mm-hmm. I have AI developers, I have app developers, I have people focused on UI and make sure the user experience. And I think that's pretty cool. It's making me a better lawyer to learn a little bit more about the non-legal field. And they're bringing something to the table because most folks don't come from a law firm where we're hiring them. They're coming from a corporation where they had to actually, they had to figure out the bottom line. They had to solve problems. And it's actually, I think, made us a bit of a better organization, better group on fixing client problems or solving client problems because they're bringing a different perspective. I love Justin's point about you have to partner in many ways because I want to build on top of things. Mm-hmm. I need to get to market faster and I need to be able to build on top of it. So I do, every time I talk to a provider or technology company I'm working with, is how customizable is it? How much can you open the back end for me if I want to put something on top of it? So that's for me something very important when I'm going to a client and say, hey, yeah, you can just go buy a insert software, but we've done a lot of this legwork to get you much further up with some customization on top of that.
I think co-innovation is key. Like as a service provider, you always have to be willing and open to do that because that's how your clients, you guys in the room, are going to differentiate themselves. It's a really interesting analysis. So here's the $10 million question. What do you think the future holds? And, near term, long term, using a flux capacitor, 88 miles per hour, way in the future. What are you most excited about for the future of AI in law?
Man, that's a big question.
I like to aim, simple. I simplify it.
Well, I think the past 18 months have told us it's that anything is possible. When you least likely expect something will happen. But hopefully in the future with AI, it will all be a positive. And I truly believe and I share this with everybody is I think we all believe that it will be better rather than worse. The Terminator is not out there in the AI field. We're always going to need somebody. What I believe in between a person between the client, but a person between the court system, right? Mm-hmm. You need to have a JD and pass the bar, right? You're not going to be replaced by a computer. Having said that, the whole theme here, and we've heard this for many, many years, is that this technology and all technology, but we're seeing it go at an exponential rate. You're able to do higher level mm-hmm. stuff, right? We're able to do many things that because we have the tools and we're not doing the rote tasks. So should we be afraid? Absolutely not. I think it should be embraced. I think it should be championed. I think if you are afraid, just learn more. Learn as much as you possibly can because it's not going away. It's not going to disappear one night. It will be here. And the more you can learn about AI, the technology behind it, I think the better off both you and your organization will be.
How about for the gentleman here virtually, employing technology we weren't even really using very often 18 months ago? Kieran or Justin, what do you think the future holds either in your practice or writ large?
So I won't be the voice of doom and gloom, but I will point out the fact that most of us believe that jobs will be replaced by robots, but most of us believe our jobs won't be replaced by robots. I think, the question about, should I be afraid really is largely dependent on whether you're going into the future with your eyes wide open, what your current job is, what your skills are, and whether you're willing to learn new things, as Chris pointed out. Robots are still not, for the foreseeable future, AI won't be able to do things like, fine motor skill functions or emotional intelligence tasks. So there are a lot of great things that make us really good at life, that make us good at jobs that robots won't be able to replace. But I think it's really, really important to be paying attention to that. And if you're in a job that is highly repetitive, that is just dependent on doing the same thing over and over again, you should evaluate what you're doing and what you're learning.
It's not the robots that are going to take over. It's the Scott Milner, the Kieran of the world that use the technology to be a better lawyer, to achieve better results for less money more efficiently. So Bob in the corner using tech, Scott in the corner around the block using tech, they will take my job or my client if I don't watch out and try to embrace technology. So there's kind of a balance to it.
I used to joke that the law firms are going to be three lawyers in a Siri. And you could be a general practitioner and really leverage legal AI to actually get to become a specialist. Now, I mean, I joke, but I think the one area that I'm afraid of, if I'm being honest, is the training and education of young lawyers to be the expert. Because, when I was a baby lawyer and I would go to the clients and I would go and collect data, I'd go, interview them. I'd go do some of these other things. And I got trained by mentors to help me learn how to do that. And, technology is starting to replace some of the things that junior lawyers when I was, kind of coming up the ranks were doing. And it's great. But it just means that senior lawyers, man, I can't call myself a senior at this point.
Senior moment.
We have to be better at educating the lawyers so they understand the process of what we're doing and understand how to embrace the technology. So I think if I'm going to be afraid, that's what it is the lawyers taking the time to educate.
And what about for you, Kieran? From the corporate side, what do you think the future holds? Positive, doom and gloom, anywhere in between?
Oh my gosh, I'm a 100% optimist on this issue. So, given my background as an engineer, just because somebody invented a robot, we didn't stop having mechanics, and just because somebody invented the Excel spreadsheet, the accountants did not just go away, right? So I'm a 100% optimist. So my first one is no doom and gloom scenario for me. Second, I think we need to think about where it's going to be used. I think I mentioned it can be used as a tool. It can be used as an assistant. So it will plug in. Each of these small solutions is going to plug in at various parts in the entire, whether it be the litigation process, mergers and acquisitions, intellectual property, e-discovery, whatever you call, whatever practice area you touch, you are going to find a artificial intelligence component where all of us, all the lawyers, whether in-house, outside counsel, I think they're going to trust it and they're going to use it, and it's just going to find its way. I think, to some of the, points mentioned, I think the education system has to change. The education system will change because we are already Liberty Mutual partners with a couple of local schools, and we are seeing a lot of new change. Young lawyers are thinking about technology much more optimistically. And in fact, when they come to us, they actually demand more technology from corporate law firms, right? So I think it's going to positively impact. I think the larger key, I'm not an attorney, but I think many of you who are attorneys have to, think about, when you guys went to school, it was really about access to justice. So how can you make the access to justice much more broader and much more cheaper, right? So if the courts can get through trials much quicker with much more information, if the jury and everybody is able to make the right decision much more quicker, so isn't the society better off overall? So I feel again, as I said, I'm an optimist, and I think, I feel like AI is definitely going to, help the society, move in the positive direction.
Well, I think there's not a better way to wrap up than that optimistic note. The three of us will stay here. If anyone had questions, I know we kind of talked right through the hour, but we are really optimistic about the future of AI and excited that you guys came here. I want to thank our virtual attendees, virtual speakers, Brad for being the best producer of a session ever, and my in-person co-panelist. And enjoy the rest of ILTA, and thank you all so much for coming.